Hi there, my name is Jonathan Baumgart. I'm the CEO of Atomic Consulting. In today's video, we're going to discuss cryptocurrency and digital asset regulation in South Africa. So let's get started. Okay, so I'd like to discuss cryptocurrency licensing in South Africa. And what I will cover in this video are the following points. First, I'm going to dive into regulation. It'll be a basic overview. Then I'll cover the requirements in terms of what's needed to get crypto licensing in South Africa. I'll cover the application process. And finally, I'll go over timelines and the idea of an acquisition. So let's get started with regulation. In South Africa, crypto companies, companies that are doing exchange type of activities, virtual asset companies, they're all known as FSPs. Now that stands for Financial Service Provider. Our team also does licensing for FX and CFD brokers, which is categorized in South Africa as derivatives, and it actually falls under the same category. So it is possible, for example, to have an FX broker that also is operating as a crypto exchange, which is quite unique to South Africa. Nevertheless, in the case of crypto firms, they would fall under the FSP category. And in South Africa, it's quite simple. There is just one type of permission set that's known as crypto. So if you have a financial service provider company with the crypto permission set, that's it. You can offer all the services that virtual digital asset firms are offering. This includes futures trading, staking, lending options, exchange services, anything that you notice with established exchanges can be offered here in South Africa. As a result, it's been quite a popular region, and since regulation began for crypto, which is a few years ago as of this recording, there are many firms that have popped up. So there's a lot of demand to get regulated in South Africa. I would say that for Africa as a whole, it's the most established region for this type of regulation. And of course, we can help you through every step of the way. And I'll mention in the end of the video more about getting in touch with our team. So that's how things are regulated. And as a final point, the regulatory body, it's the same for derivatives. It's the FSCA in South Africa. So they're the ones who oversee everything in terms of regulation, oversight, and what I'll cover in the next steps. So let's get started and discuss now the requirements. What is required if you wanted to obtain a crypto license and apply for one in South Africa? Okay, in terms of requirements, South Africa is quite unique. What's most important is the key individual requirement. Now, this is a unique type of requirement that's really not found in other jurisdictions that we work with. A key individual is usually someone who's local to South Africa that has passed various exams. And in the case of crypto, they must demonstrate experience working with digital assets or virtual currencies. So in most cases, this is something that our group would help you out with, because it's very hard to find yourself unless you already have a local team in place. Why is this so important? The key individual is responsible for the day-to-day operations. I have a whole article that will be in the description where you can learn more, but the key individual is almost like a CEO and a compliance officer in the same role. It's the most crucial aspect. Without a key individual, the FSCA will not approve the license. The key individual must demonstrate to the FSCA that they have the necessary experience to get approval in South Africa. Now that's not all, but that's the most important requirement. You'll also need a local director, kind of a person on the ground who can assist with banking, the setup, who will communicate and work with the key individual. And basically, the director and the key individual are the two most important roles that you need to fill. You'll also need compliance because South Africa does ask for quite a bit of oversight in terms of how everything is run. So these are kind of the minimum personnel that you need in South Africa. Now, you'll also need to form a company, which is part of any kind of licensing process. So company formation is needed. You'll need a bank account as well. But the banking comes post-license approval. Now, what's unique about South Africa, in addition to a key individual, is that you don't need any fixed capital, which is very attractive, I would say. How is capital kind of categorized, or how is it handled? It's really based on operating expenses. Now, our team can help you out with this, but basically you can look at the salaries of the key individual, compliance, and director, and just project those out for a few months, and that should be enough in terms of the capital. So from this standpoint, it's relatively light. While you do need these personnel, you don't have to worry about capital that's sitting there frozen for the duration of the license. That does make it attractive. Plus, the key individual role makes it quite easy to operate this remotely. And I would say the majority of our clients are not local to South Africa, and that's really where a firm like us can help. So now the process, how does it work in terms of getting this license? Let's cover that now. So in terms of the application process, you would form a company. You would need to seek out the personnel that I mentioned, the key individual, director, and compliance. And sometimes that can be covered. The compliance can be covered by both. You may want to have a compliance director who's independent. That's really your choice, and we can help you. Now, once you form the company and find these individuals, you'll need obviously a website, and most importantly, you'll need a business plan, and we'll have to go over a lengthy questionnaire. South Africa does have a great reputation. However, it is quite an extensive process to get this license approved. We'll work with you on this questionnaire, but you'll need to have a business plan, an AML policy, and also be able to prove to the FSCA that your firm has the necessary experience and credibility to get this license. This is why consulting firms like us exist, so we can provide your team with the necessary guidance that is needed in order to get this license. It goes without saying that you'll also need a website, a platform, and liquidity. I don't think I need to mention those things, but it is worth saying that you should have those in place before you even consider this application. Those will come up in the questionnaire, so we wouldn't even register the company or start looking for these roles until you had that set up. So keep in mind, this type of application is for companies that basically have something established. I don't recommend, if you're a startup and you haven't even launched your exchange yet, that you would consider a place like South Africa. It is for more established businesses. Now, once all that is in place, then we're ready to submit the application. So what I want to do now is discuss the timelines. Basically, how long does it take to get this license, and also another consideration about acquisitions. So the timelines in South Africa are not great, and I like to be transparent. I find the transparency is what separates our firm from the rest. So realistically, it's a 12-month process, if not more, to get this type of license. Now, I don't want that to scare you off. There are other options. What makes South Africa very interesting and unique is once you have a key individual in place and the structure, you can easily acquire an existing business. The reason goes back to what I mentioned before, and this is why South Africa is such a unique region. Because the key individual acts as a compliance officer and a CEO, it is possible to very quickly acquire a company that has everything in place. The reason is that the shareholders don't need to have the same level of experience that the key individual does, because the key individual and the director will essentially run the company. And that doesn't mean that the owners have no autonomy. Rather, most of the responsibility in the day-to-day operations falls under these two individuals. So that does make it easy to acquire an existing business. You can significantly reduce this timeline by doing one of the two things. Either you can find a crypto license for sale, and in the video description I will put our marketplace where we often have these kind of licenses. The other option is to acquire an FSP and go through the upgrade process. Now, if you do an upgrade where you take an existing FSP and add on crypto, you can cut that timeline by half, maybe even more. It really depends on the type of company you acquire. That's why for these type of acquisitions, it's best to contact our team because each FSP is unique and has different requirements. Nevertheless, this is a much faster option, and to be frank, we often recommend an acquisition as a starting point. We think a fresh application just takes way too long. So, in any case, that's how the timelines work, and if you wanted something more specific, I always recommend getting in touch with us and contacting us. So now I'd like to wrap up this video. So to summarize, or the takeaways from everything we covered so far, South Africa is an ideal region for crypto regulation if you'd like to have a footprint in Africa. It has a very extensive requirement process in terms of what's needed. However, our team can assist you. Like I mentioned, you do need the key individual, a local director, a business plan, but we can help. The timeline is quite long for a fresh application. However, you may want to consider an acquisition. So make sure to check out our marketplace and Telegram channel to learn about any licenses available. And that's it. So I wish to thank you for checking out this video. We are happy to assist you if you'd like to know anything about acquiring a license, about regulations, about permissions, anything related to South Africa. I'm confident that we can assist you. As mentioned, we have a local team in place and we're here to help. So feel free to reach out to us, get in touch with our team. We'd be more than happy to discuss South Africa licensing with you in more detail. So thank you for checking out this video. Make sure to subscribe and like the video so that you can get updates. I do often answer questions as well in the comments and make unique videos. So as a last point, if you had a specific question or wanted me to make a video on it, feel free to suggest that. So thank you for checking out the video, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.